Hey y'all, I'm James Wright, and welcome to my shop. Today I'm going to take you on a shop tour. Now, I am usually not a fan of shop tours. It's not something that I really like that much, but apparently a lot of other people do, and I get asked to do it. So I try and do it once every few years. It's been about 2.5 years since the last one, so let's actually go around and take a look at the shop and how I have things set up. So the nice thing about my shop is it's relatively small. It's a little bit smaller than a single car garage, and I can show it all from one angle. So right there, that's the total of my shop. So we're going to start right around this corner here, and we're going to go all the way around the shop, and we'll end up back here at my desk, and I'll show you how everything's set up. So the camera was just over here at the door, and we turned around and we're looking back this way. This is my staircase down to the basement, and I found this is a fantastic place to store lumber. I have longer stuff at the bottom because the stairs go out longer and they get shorter and shorter, so everything is organized by length. Even though all the ends come out here, I have 8 to 9 foot stuff there, 7 foot stuff, 6 to 5, 4 foot, 3 foot, 2, and 1 foot, and I know that I can look at any piece and know approximately how long it is. As long as I keep them organized by length, I know what I have where I have. With a few caveats that this is my spring pole lathe, and this down here are slabs and other large things because I don't have as much in that size range. So that is how I store all my lumber. Have my aprons that I don't use as much, and then I normally have my extra cameras here. Then I have this is a small filing cabinet where I keep my power tools, or some of my power tools, my drills and things like that, battery chargers, bits and things, and all of this is the accoutrement for that. Next up we have the storage cabinets, and this is where most everything is stored. On top here I have my pressure pot, my vacuum chamber, my steamer, other things that I don't use that often. They don't fit as much in the cabinets. Rockets, and then my safety stuff, gloves, earplugs, masks, and goggles, and things of that nature. In this cabinet I have the no-nos. I have my power tools down here. So this is where I have routers, orbital sander, belt sander, and then the extra things that they need, as well as some of my large pieces of sandpaper. This is all of my hardware. So bolts, nuts, screws. I have these cases. They're double-sided. I got these from Menards, and they're relatively cheap. They're like $5 a piece. And so I can have all of these set up. So I have one that's just brass, I have one that's just nuts, I have one that's just bolts, I have one that's odds and ends. Each one then is easy to pull out and go through them, as well as I have this one that is bolts organized by sizes. And then of course all of the boxes of screws and nuts and things. I try to keep this as clean as possible. The top shelf here is all of my tapes, rubber bands, cables, sand, tacky cloth, things like that. They just don't fit any other place. This second cabinet is my new sticker wall. This is where I'm currently working on it. Once I fill this one up, then I'll start working on this cabinet. I figure I've got another couple of years of these too. This one is all of my glues, tapes, and things of that nature. So I've got my epoxies up here. Down below that I have the smaller epoxies with all the additions, the mixing cups, the mixing accoutrement. Here are most of the glues. Here are finishes that don't fit up on this. This is most of my finishes. Wipe on poly, thinners, paste wax, oils, things that I don't use that often, but I like to have samples so I can show different methods of doing it. Down below we've got spray paint, rust remover, my pot for mixing up hide glues, and then I have my house paints and stains down at the very bottom. Moving along the wall, I start to get into clamp storage, but this is my scroll saw. I don't use this very often. It's one of those things that it has a niche, but it's very big, and it's not something I use all the time. But when I do, it's very, very useful. Most of the time, it just ends up being an extension cord rack, so I can keep my extension cords from running all over the place. And it's also a flat surface that ends up collecting projects that I'm currently working on. Back here in the corner, I've got 4-inch PVC pipes, and this is great for dowel stock and pipes, other rods and things like that, and so I can have a view of every one of them at any given time. Makes it very easy to see them and actually access these, so I love having those for storing dowels. Along the wall farther, now I have my clamps, and these are actually just hanging on the sill plate above my concrete wall. So I'm down in the basement, so that actually makes a great place to just hang a hook up, and they can go out here. And I do have a space that I can add on more in the future because you can never have enough clamps. Also, for all the hand clamps, C-clamps, squeeze clamps, I put those up on the joist, and they actually just clamp onto the joist. Makes it very easy, so when I'm working here, I can just reach up, grab them, put them back in place, and clamp them down. I just have to make sure I actually clamp them so they don't fall and hit me in the head, which I've happened, you know, that's the way things are. As we move down the back wall, this is my sharpening station. This is where I do all of my sharpening. It's right here. The things that I use all the time, extra strops I leave out on the bench, they're sitting here. My extra paste wax. I have a drawer down here of other small things that I use, but most of my sharpening is done here. It's a little bit lower than my bench, so I can get up on top of it. I like that, but it's a good function. This is actually an end table that I stole from off the curb somewhere. One of these days I actually want to make a nice, that's exactly what I want, but for right now it works well and it was free. I have a good bit of space here in between the wall, and that's where I put my clamps. So I have my small piece clamp, my saw vise in here, and then all of my large saws are hanging on the wall back here. And this actually works out pretty well. And now the part of the shop that everyone is familiar with. This is the backdrop, but it's not really a backdrop. It is how I store tools. And if I didn't have a YouTube channel, this is how I would store my tools. This is exactly the way I want them. And the reason is, if I'm working here at the bench, and I need a saw, I don't even have to move my feet. I can turn around, grab my saw. When I'm done with it, I turn back around and I put it back in place, and everything is there. Everything is within reach. Even the farthest tool is just one step away. One step, I grab the farthest tool, I come back over here, and I'm at my work. It is incredibly efficient. I don't have to worry about cabinet doors opening up. I don't have to worry about a box on the floor I'm getting things out of. Everything is within reach. It's very efficient and very, very useful. And I do have videos on every one of these pieces, how every rack is designed and put together. When I redid the shop, I went through and actually built every one of these racks to exactly how I want them. So if you want to see the chisel rack or the file rack or the plane till or the saw till, I have individual videos on all of those. So then moving around the corner a little bit more, this is the junk corner. And I'd like to introduce you to Tychus. Tychus is the kind of shop mascot. He has followed me around from job to job, and he was a gift from a previous job that I worked at, and he is now the holder of the Bob Ross wig. So yeah, if you're ever wondering about that. Also, if you're ever wondering about this thing hanging on the wall, this doesn't actually control anything. It is a control pickle from my days as a technical director, and it's just kind of a reminder of where my history is. On the wall here, I've got some hammers, things that don't fit, propane bottle, the work sharp that I use for some of the testing, though I probably need to move that up onto the shelves. A box of scrap wood. Now these are special scrap wood, things that are a little less common. Like I have some 500-year-old white oak in there. I have some English oak in there. I've got live oak and a lot of other things like the hideous palm. So anytime I'm making a scale or something like that where I want a small piece, it's probably going to be coming out of this box. And then, of course, the old sticker wall. So this was the backdrop before I built this section of the shop. So I've got all these stickers, and now I'm working on the stickers over on the cabinet. Also, for those of you who want to know, this is my confidence mirror, so when I'm doing lives, I can kind of get an idea of what's going on in the chat. And it's mounted to the wall and can then hang out over my bench, or I can push it back. Here is my under bench. I keep this as my rolling cabinet. This is a Stanley rolling box, and so if I'm taking tools somewhere for a demonstration, I can fit almost all the tools I need in this one box. One of these days I would like to make a wooden one that I actually designed, but this actually works really well. On top of here are my shop rags, my paste wax, and my BLO. So it's quick reach when I want to do that. Speaking of paste wax, I've got the two that I sell right here. Actually, I normally keep those over here, but for some reason they fell under there. Of course, you always need some blue tape. These are my bench hooks and stops. I have my 2P10 CA glue here, so anytime I break off a little chip or something, it's very quick and easy to get to. My scrub plane, my shooting board plane. I haven't created a place for this, so it kind of lives down underneath here. Then, of course, bench hooks and other things like that, pliers and vice grips. And then also my panel gauge, because it just doesn't fit with all of my other gauges, but it seems to have found a nice hole down here. So I don't keep too much down here. I like to leave this open, but eventually things start to clutter up here and I have to go back and clean it out. Coming around to the other side of the bench, I've got my shop vac right here. I pull this out quite often when I'm just trying to get holes out. Cleaning out mortises, getting all the junk out of the bottom, this actually works really well for that. I've got my two different Moxon vices here. I'm probably going to be giving away one of those here soon, as well as my bird's mouth. This is a large block of white oak that I actually use as a step stool for the kids, so when they want to work at the bench, it raises them up, and it's just an old beam cut off. But this is kind of where things go to die, and they tend to collect around here. And eventually, once there's enough stuff here, it's like the notification that I need to clean my shop again. This is the Barnes No. 5 lathe, and ooh la la, it's happy. I don't use it a whole lot, but when I do, this is phenomenal. I have a whole video on restoring this and bringing it up to where I use it. It is one of those tools that is invaluable when you need it, though I don't use it very often, kind of like the scroll saw. It's good to have, but yeah. All of my turning tools up here, with the exception of live controller and rufflers, things of that nature. And of course, you always need to have a couple shop towels, so they end up sitting on top of this eventually. Then farther in the corner, I have two other post drills. I used to have a post drill mounted on the wall that I restored a while ago. I sold that one with the intention of restoring this one using it, but then I got that one popped up on the Facebook Marketplace, and I just had to grab that one as well. So I don't know which of the two I'm going to restore and use, but I'm probably going to end up selling one of the other two. Here we've got the kids' bench. It's now actually a bit short for them, so I'm probably going to be getting rid of this here sometime soon and putting Sarah's bench in there once she gets it finished, because now the kids are almost to the same height as Sarah, so her bench will work pretty well once she has it done. So you can see we still have a good ways to go on it, but a lot of those parts are coming along. My saw bench kind of floats around in the shop. It's pretty easy to pick up and move around, and so it tends to be a flat surface that collects things, but it's pretty easy to then pick up and move to a new location. Although this tends to be where Sarah's doing her work right now. She has her bench set on this so that she can work on that. Underneath the kids' bench is where the kids' tools are stored. Those are toolboxes that I've made with them, and I have a couple videos on making that. This is my go-to toolbox, basically things I'm working on the car, ratchets, wrenches, pliers, that's all in here. The first two shelves on my shelving unit are old tools that either need to be restored or I'm going to be giving away to other people. This is kind of the dump zone when I get a new collection of tools until I get a chance to restore them or sell them. This is a tiny portion of what I have. I have a whole nother shelf out in the garage that I keep most of them. Some of them are just things like my miter box, which I almost never use, but every now and then I need to pull it out, and so it lives there. Also, here are my two grinders. Most of the time I just pull those out for tool restorations and use the wire wheel. The next shelf up is testing supplies. So for the glue test and the chisel test and things like that are up on here, with the exception being the middle is where I put carving tools. And then this is my microscope as well. Next shelf up, this is the projects that I have ongoing, things that I'm in the middle of or I need to work on, as well as my power planer. This I pull out whenever I need to do large stock removal pretty quickly. Other than ingrain, it works really well. This up here are projects that I have completed. So boxes, carving, things like that. They are things that I made to demonstrate and show, but I really don't have any particular use for it. So a lot of times when people come over to the shop to visit, I give them something that I've made in a video. It makes people happy and I get the use out of it, so I like that. Continuing around, this is the heart of the shop. This is my desk where I spend most of my time. I would say 60 to 70% of my time is not done down there. It's done right here, editing videos, doing all the social media and things like that. This is where I have that. So I have 3 monitors on here. This is my monitor that I can kind of check on what I was doing. A wide curved monitor for most of my work, a vertical one here for emails and things like that. I like this format. I eventually want to build a shelf here so I can put up my printer and printer papers and things like that. Because eventually, once Sarah starts doing more things with Wood by Wright, this will be her desk space. Here is the set of drawers that I made not too long ago, and you can see wood on wood with a bit of paste wax. They still slide gorgeously. It's one of these systems that this I am incredibly happy with, and it has met every need I've planned for it. So yes, this came out very well. But this is where I spend most of my time. But now I have a backdrop here. If you're ever watching a live video, you've seen this backdrop behind Sarah, or if you do a hangout with me on Patreon, these are all bibs from races that I've run. This is kind of like a smattering of who I am in general. Racing, running, carving, MWTCA, Packers owner certificate. Yes, I am an owner of the Packers. This is Gryffindor, the house I am, YouTube, just a little bit about who I am, and just kind of makes a fun backdrop. And then we come around and you can see the laundry room. Yes, I am in my basement. And in the laundry room I have my 3D printer and all of that. as well as the computer that actually runs all of my programming and editing. So there is a quick rundown of my shop. Yes, it's a shop tour, but I hope some of you enjoyed that. I generally don't make these very often. It's something that comes out once every few years, 2 to 3 years or so. So if you have any questions or thoughts or suggestions, I actually have a lot of the design around the shop from suggestions from you. So thank you. Please keep those coming. Who knows what I'm going to be doing in the future, or maybe sometime in the future I'll get a new shop. That's kind of the way things go. So I hope you like this. If you do have any questions, comments, ideas, snide remarks, let me know those down below. And as always, I want to say a huge thank you to the patrons on Patreon, because without you, this shop would not exist. Without patrons on Patreon, members here on the channel, this channel would not be going. So thank you to everyone who's keeping this going. We are here with you. You are literally sponsoring this channel. You might notice that I don't actually have sponsors that come on and say, ooh, this product is because of such and such. No, I'm sponsored by you, the viewers. So thank you. If you'd like to find out more about that, you can go to patreon.com down below, as well as you could click that little join button and become a member here on YouTube. That really does help out and keeps us going. So I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. That's actually the third shop tour I've done. So I think I should call it a shop threer.